118,000, well ahead of some whispers that we heard on Wall Street of a sub 100,000 number. So this is indeed beating expectations. We were also expecting a slowdown. We did not get that. This is basically in line with May, which was revised higher. It's also good news. The unemployment rate was expected to go up. It didn't. It went down to 4.1%. That is a very healthy number. This is still relatively historically low. And again, it's below the 4.3% that we had expected.
147,000 jobs, definitely a bit better than expected, no matter what your range was, whether it was closer to 100 or 115,000, it's a pretty good number. And guess what? If we look at the 2-month revision, it's positive. It's up 16,000. How does 147 stack up? Well, it's pretty odd because it's exactly where we were in April, unless they revise that.
And Mr. Speaker, we want no part of it, which is why we're fighting so hard to stop it. Serving in the United States Congress on this glorious floor, having to be part of a crime scene.
Oh, the One Big Beautiful Bill is going to be huge. It has huge incentives for labor supply, things like no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. It's got enormous incentives for investment, and all that pushes the economy out. It pushes supply out. It increases economic growth.
This is what leadership looks like. This is an exciting bill. It combines the best of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act with President Trump's campaign promises for working Americans: no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, lower taxes on Social Security, deductibility of American-made cars, along with the president's agenda on the border, on school choice, on defense. And only President Trump could have gotten this into one big, beautiful bill and gotten it to his desk on July 4th.
They said Gen Z would stay silent, that we'd back down, that we'd forget what's worth fighting for. But this generation remembers. We remember truth. We remember freedom. And now, we rise. This is more than a conference. It's a call to action, to reclaim the future, to ignite a movement that cannot be ignored. Student Action Summit 2025, featuring the boldest voices in the fight. Charlie Kirk, Secretary Pete Hegseth, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Brett Cooper, Secretary Kristi Noem, Riley Gaines, Brandon Tatum, Jack Posobiec, Laura Ingraham, Megyn Kelly, Greg Gutfeld, Tom Homan, Congressman Byron Donalds, Russell Brand, Savannah Chrisley. Join thousands of students, future leaders, and freedom fighters. This is the battleground of ideas. This is the Student Action Summit. Register now at SAS2025.com. Every day, there's a battle for your mind raging. Information coming from every angle with the will to deceive. Fear not. You found the place for truth. The voice of a generation that still has the will to believe in the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the Charlie Kirk Show. Buckle up. Here we go.
Okay, everybody, radio stations across the country, honored to be with you for our last broadcast of the week. Tomorrow is Independence Day, and it looks as if we are going to have a wonderful Independence Day in this country. As you can see in the picture-in-picture, we have Hakeem the Dream Jeffries going on. He's doing some sort of House equivalent of a filibuster. It's not going to work. The House of Representatives worked long through the night to officially pass the rule, and the final vote should be coming up today to pass the big, beautiful bill. And here's what's so amazing about what Hakeem the Dream is doing, is that there are so many elements of the bill that I forgot about. I'm learning so much about this bill thanks to Hakeem. So you see, having our enemies recite the bill back to us about all the terrible thing that it's going to do for deportations and Planned Parenthood, I'm like, my goodness, this is much better than I realized. I mean, I knew that it was pretty good. I knew that it was about 80 to 90% of the pie, but now I'm getting up to that 95% figure. Late last night, around 1 a.m. Eastern, I was on the phone with members of Congress, some of the holdouts. I said, guys, what are you doing here? I said, it's 1 a.m. Eastern. Thankfully, I have West Coast advantage. This is one of the great things about being on Pacific time, is that being 3 hours behind, it's like only 10 p.m., which is a little past my bedtime. But I stayed up a little bit later to try to help however I could contribute to the fight. And I was talking to some of the holdouts. I said, look, guys, I'm fans of all of you. I'm a fiscal hawk. We need to balance our budget. But what is the concern here? Because if you guys change this bill and it goes back to the Senate, it very well might die in the halls of Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins. So what is the objection here? And finally, we got to a place where they said, well, we're going to go vote for it. We need to try to just get some horse trading done. I said, fine, there's no issue with that. And that's exactly what ended up happening late into the evening. And now Hakeem, he's getting a little upset. Hakeem is now doing a nonstop type filibuster, but honestly, he's doing the PR for all of us. He is now our public relations official. He is going element by element of the bill, bragging about how it's going to be the largest deportation army the country has ever seen, talking about how this is going to cut taxes for working people, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, the largest working class tax cut in American history. The border will be completely and totally fortified. We're going to have a golden dome. Remember the Trump baby accounts, the baby bonus accounts for investment accounts. Every new baby born will get a $1,000 investment account, one-way drop box that will not be able to be accessed by anybody and not accessed till they're 18 years old. And billionaires, financiers, aunts, uncles, moms, dads, grandfathers, schools, competitions, sporting teams can contribute into that investment account, and it will grow throughout their life so that we are creating an economy of owners. And then one thing that I'm extremely passionate about. Republicans have long talked about defunding Planned Parenthood. But guess what? It's happening. Planned Parenthood is getting their funding shut. It's only for a year, but it's still a victory. It's only for a year. But that still is going to completely derail the funding mechanism of Planned Parenthood. And we need to make sure that this is a continually thing. Planned Parenthood is a Democrat super PAC. Regardless of your opinions on abortion, they ran ads against Donald Trump. They engage in political advocacy against Republicans. We are financing a multi-$100 million Democrat super PAC. Not to mention they lie about all of the health care nonsense. They're an extension of the DNC, period, hard stop. Play cut 435, Hakeem the Dream. He is very upset about the cutting of Planned Parenthood. Play cut 435.
All-out assault on the care, Mr. Speaker, being provided by Planned Parenthood, the medical care being provided by Planned Parenthood.
He is dollar store Obama, I'll tell you what. This guy, you could buy him at a discount. He's not even good at this. Another tweet this morning from a guy by the name of Ian Bremmer. I don't know really where he's from, but his tweets get a lot of attention. It's phenomenal. How big of a deal is the ICE investment? The big, beautiful bill passing would make the budget for ICE larger than most of the world's militaries. ICE will be a larger standing army as far as budget than the Israeli military. than the Italian military, than the Dutch military, and the Brazilian military. Let me just comment on something. If Israel only spends $30 billion in their military and they're able to get that kind of precision, they're much more efficient with the money that they spend than we spend $1 trillion. I'm just saying. Anyway, that's a whole side note. I'm kind of impressed that Israel only spends $30 billion a year on their military compared to what America spends. We spend $1 trillion and we got a lot of waste there, but we're going to fix that at a different juncture. ICE will now be one of the largest standing military forces in the world. And if that bothers you, then you are probably an illegal alien. If that bothers you, you're probably harboring illegal aliens. If that bothers you, you're probably employing illegal aliens. You probably run a restaurant, a farm, a meatpacking facility. You probably employ those that should not be here, and you are breaking federal law, and your employees are breaking federal law. 8 U.S.C. 1312, 8 U.S.C. 1350, harboring illegal aliens, not notifying the government of where you are, why you are here. And now ICE will finally have the thrust, it will have the gusto to be able to reverse the invasion. Do you understand how hard it is to reverse a domestic invasion? We are embarking on one of the most difficult, challenging, ambitious, and daunting domestic policy projects in American history. Forget the Hoover Dam, forget going to the moon, forget the atom bomb, the Manhattan Project. This is far more daunting. You are talking about removing human beings that Democrats have allowed to attach themselves to the social welfare state. This is one of the most daunting and ambitious public policy projects in the history of the country. And we're going to get it done. Here is Dollar Store Obama, 437, saying a deportation machine will be unleashed on steroids. You better believe it. This is what we voted for. This is what we need. This, again, of all the major accomplishments that America should be proud of, Panama Canal, Louisiana Purchase, Hoover Dam, the highway system, this is going to go up there. When we are done and we have Project 10 million, we could say that we removed 10 million people from the country plus self-deportations. It will go down as one of the most remarkable and significant projects in history. Play cut 437.
Speaker, that's not what this country should be all about. Manu wasn't the only one, the only American citizen who's been targeted by the deportation machine, a deportation machine that will be unleashed on steroids by this one big ugly bill. We know that, in fact, is the case. That's not hyperbole.
It's not hyperbole. It is reality. Hakeem Jeffries is doing the PR for this bill for us. And if we are serious about reclaiming the country and fulfilling the mandate and fulfilling the agenda, then this bill absolutely must pass. And it will pass in the coming hours. Is it perfect? No. Does it cut enough spending? No. Does it still have some green new scam elements in it? Unfortunately, yes. Does it spend too much on projects we shouldn't? In some places, no. Yes. In some places, yes. But on the tax cuts, the Trump baby accounts, the defunding of Planned Parenthood, most of the repealing of the Inflation Reduction Act, the working class tax cut, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, not to mention the border. You might be tempted to think that we're blowing smoke selling this bill to you. But when you hear our ideological and political enemies confirming everything we said, maybe now you will believe us. And even some of the hardened critics online that were like, oh, this is a terrible bill, they're starting to do a little backpedal. Beep, beep. They're backing up a little bit because they start to realize that the people that are the sworn enemies of the United States, which Hakeem Jeffries is, he's a sworn enemy to this republic. He is now, this is the worst bill ever. Ooh. Well, if you don't like it, I love it. Because we are going to unleash that deportation machine to get done what we need to get done. It'll be messy at times. There'll be speed bumps. It's not always easy. But I'll tell you right now, we're going to get it done. ReliefFactor.com. I think we all know that one person who, when their head hits the pillow at night, they're out. Many of us have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, which means they're not getting quality sleep. Let me tell you about Z-Factor from Relief Factor. Z-Factor is more than melatonin. It combines it's a combination of 4 natural ingredients to calm your mind, relax your body so you ease into sleep faster. Go to relieffactor.com. That is relieffactor.com. Relax your mind and fall asleep quicker and sleep soundly with Z-Factor from Relief Factor. So give Z-Factor a try right now, and you can save 46% on your first order, only $19.95 for a 30-day supply. That is relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Most of us have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, so go to relieffactor.com. That is relieffactor.com. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. Subscribe to our podcast. We'll be right back.
From the campus to the car, the bullhorn to the microphone, it's the Charlie Kirk Show.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to our podcast. That's the Charlie Kirk Show podcast page. I want to tell you guys about YRefi. YRefi is an amazing partner. They're the partner of our upcoming Student Action Summit. They will be there in person. I think we have a new updated 30-second one. Which one is it, guys? I want to see. I know Shane put it in here somewhere. But go to YRefi.com, that is YREFY.com, for private student loan debt refinancing. I think this is the new one. Let's see, play cut 53.
Student Action Summit 2025, featuring the boldest voices in the fight. Charlie Kirk, Secretary Pete Hegseth, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Brett Cooper, Secretary Kristi Noem, Riley Gaines, Brandon Tatum, Jack Posobiec, Laura Ingraham, Megyn Kelly, Greg Gutfeld, Tom Homan, Congressman Byron Donalds, Russell Brand, Savannah Chrisley. Join thousands of patriots, future leaders, and freedom fighters of all ages. Register now at SAS2025.com.
Why Refi is a primary sponsor there. If any of you in the audience have private student loan debt, refer them to whyrefi.com or go there yourself. YREFY.com, whyrefi.com. Be right back. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. We're here at the bitcoin.com studio. So what does this mean for the American economy? Well, joining us in the next segment will be Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. We're going to go through all of the economic implications of this bill. And understand, if you were to rank it, what is the most important part of the agenda? What is the most important part of the mandate? If you had to rank it, is it no men and female sports? That's important. Is it foreign policy? What is the most important thing? The centerpiece of President Trump's political journey, from the escalator to July 4th signing ceremony, the centerpiece is mass migration. Now, just understand how far we have come, and admittedly, how far I have come. We've all come on this journey together. I have become more focused and definitely deeper of understanding on the immigration issue. We went from, it was controversial to say build the wall. That was like a major controversy. And President Donald Trump, what we're about to see happen with the signing of this bill is a masterclass in the Overton window. What is the Overton window? We explain this every so often on our program. The Overton window is a political theory that describes the range of ideas considered acceptable or mainstream. The spectrum goes from unthinkable to radical to acceptable to sensible to popular to policy. It's a 6-step move. What you are witnessing in real time is the movement of the Overton window over a decade. This is a political science class, so take out your pencils and your pens, everybody. I'm about to walk through it in about 4 minutes. So the Overton window goes through the spectrum very quickly of something that is totally unthinkable. So 10 years ago, it was unthinkable in public life, in politics, and in the Republican Party to say that we need mass deportations. You would be called a racist. They would kick you out, and they'd say you're a terrible person. It was even controversial to say, let's build the wall. What President Trump did is he moved the unthinkable, building the wall, into what was then considered radical. So it goes from unthinkable to radical. And then it became acceptable, and then it became sensible. Thank you. That's it right there. Sensible, then popular, then policy. But no one, even in the first term, think about it. In our first term, we didn't even talk about mass deportations because we were talking about the wall all the time. Now we don't even bat an eye at the wall. People roll their eyes. Okay, great, $40 billion for the wall. But what about the deportations? And that is the power of the Overton window. Because now the wall is popular policy. No one even disagrees with it. Yeah, fine, build the wall. But what about all these people in my community that are raping and stealing and chasing kids? And so what happened when President Trump is he kept on moving issues through the Overton window by just magnitudinal force, by just unapologetic grit, by size of personality. And again, let's get that up there. The last piece of the Overton window is what? Policy. You win when what you start as a salvo, as narrative, as rhetoric, becomes policy. Joseph P. Overton coined this term many years ago. And think about how the left has used it. They used it for same-sex marriage. They used it for DEI. They used it for marijuana legalization. They use it for the transgenderism. And by the way, the Overton window could go back because the Overton window on transgenderism became policy, and then we knocked it back to popular, sensible, acceptable, and now transgenderism is considered to be radical or unthinkable. So it can go both ways. But President Donald Trump, do you notice he's never gone backwards in the Overton window? This is the most important, profound point of the Trump presidency, or the Trump movement over 10 years. The Democrats have gone backwards in the Overton window. President Trump has only gone forwards. Not a single issue that President Trump has championed over the last 10 years has he gone backwards in the Overton window spectrum. He has only gone forwards, where the Democrats have gone nowhere but backwards on the Overton window. They've gone backwards on war. They've gone backwards on trans issues. They've gone backwards on every major cultural issue. This is 438. We don't have time to play it, but Bill Melugin saying in June there were 0 illegal immigrants released into the United States. So what President Trump did, and what is now culminating in a massive signing ceremony tomorrow, is the crescendo. It is the final move of he started at a campaign rally a decade ago when everyone thought he was a joke at Trump Tower. And he said, they're coming into our country, we have to build the wall, and we have to remove them. And people laughed. No one else would have had the strength and the endurance and the guts to do it. The old Republican Party retreated on every single issue, and Trump advanced. From the unthinkable to the radical to the acceptable to the sensible to the popular. And tomorrow, on Independence Day, that 10-year journey becomes policy. Scott Bessent next.
away from what's been dubbed the real reset, which is the greatest threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance in over 80 years. On July 6th, BRICS nations, which include Russia, China, India, Iran, and many more, are expected to unveil their plans to circumvent the U.S. dollar, thus cratering its value. They've already been laying the groundwork as their central banks have been methodically divesting from the U.S. dollar and instead buying gold. So, how can you protect your IRA or your 401k from the fallout from this landmark shift? Well, diversify with gold from the Birch Gold Group. Historically, gold has been a safe haven in times of high uncertainty, and right now is one of those times. Get a free information kit on tax-sheltered gold IRAs simply by texting the word America to the number 989898. July 6 marks a monumental shift happening among nations that control a third of the world's GDP. Arm yourself with information to diversify your retirement savings by texting the word America to the number 989898 and claiming your free information kit from the Birch Gold Group. Terrence Bates here with your Real America's Voice news break. A final House vote on President Trump's big, beautiful bill is expected to happen at some point in time, either later today or definitely at some point in time today. Here's a live look at the House floor where Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has the floor and continues to try and delay the vote as long as possible. He's been speaking since early this morning and may be trying to break the record of speaking on the floor for more than 8 hours and 32 minutes. Right now, he's probably at about 6 or 7 hours. In the meantime, it appears that President Trump and House leaders have secured the necessary votes to get the one big beautiful bill passed. We're, of course, told that President Trump was on the phone with potential Republican holdouts early this morning working to flip their votes. The White House, in the meantime, already scheduling a signing ceremony for the bill tomorrow, anticipating House passage at some point in time today. We'll be covering it for you live here on Real America's Voice as we wait for House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, whom you see there, to wrap up his filibuster, if you will, and then we can get to voting. Stay tuned to Real America's Voice for the very latest.
The future is bright. Here is Charlie Kirk.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. We are honored here at the Bitcoin.com studio to have the Treasury Secretary of the United States, and honestly, one of the unsung heroes of this administration, just a loyal operator executing on the president's agenda. And all of a sudden, you look at the market and we're at record highs, and he's been a superstar. It is Scott Bessent, Mr. Secretary. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us. First, I just want to say you have kept your head down, and we have trade deals with Vietnam, and inflation is low, and wage growth is up. And we have trusted you and trust the process. Before we get into the big, beautiful bill, what is the state of the American economy?
It's in transition, Charlie. And again, thanks for having me. Thanks for everything you do. Thank you. That the economy's in transition. As I've said, we are reprivatizing the economy. We had this blowout government spending from the Biden years, biggest that we'd ever seen, 6.7% deficit to GDP when we weren't at war or weren't in a recession. So we are taking away from the government spending, bringing it over to the private sector. And the centerpiece on that, President Trump is going to sign tomorrow, the one big, beautiful bill is going to create what I call parallel prosperity. So it is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and the power of that for business. And then for working Americans, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. 85% of seniors will not be paying tax on Social Security, and you will be able to deduct auto loans for American-made cars. So I think that the transition will begin tomorrow if the Hakeem Jeffries can ever sit down and let the Republicans vote. And then, on Monday, I think that we are going to unleash a capital spending boom in the U.S., which will first manifest itself in construction and then lead to a pickup in manufacturing jobs like we haven't seen in decades.
So now emphasizing the big, beautiful bill even further, I am doing every fall and spring a massive campus tour, and young people repeatedly are worried that they are entering a renting economy, not an ownership economy, that they want to be able to have the same access to buying a home and buying assets like their parents did. What does this bill do to help the next generation, specifically those that are graduating college, to be able to have their piece of the American dream, be able to own homes and not just be lifelong renters?
Well, out of the blocks, I think we are going to see that it will increase real wages. It's going to bring down inflation, and for your generation, you've gotten a bad deal. That the Biden administration, the great inflation post-COVID, which they knew was coming, but they didn't care because they wanted to blow out the spending. They also put on substantial regulations. So, what happens was you got a demand shock from the government, but then all this regulation created the inflation. So, that created supply constraints. That's how you get inflation. So what we are doing is we're going to create a demand shock. We are going to see the private sector take over, and the private sector is how you get good paying jobs where you can get real wage increases in excess of inflation. And on the other side, away from the one big beautiful bill, the rest of our agenda is deregulation. And there's a thought that deregulation would bring costs for the average household. So let's say for a single average household will be about $10,000. So let's say for a single person, that'd be about $2,500. So we are laser focused on ending this affordability crisis. Once we have finished trade and taxes here at Treasury, we're going to take on the student loan portfolio. We don't have a solution for what's going on there, but I do think that just forgiving student debt was unacceptable. But yes, I do think that I think that there is a firm and humane way to deal with the student debt crisis, and we are going to be focused on that here at Treasury because, for many young Americans, they've started out post-college with the equivalent of a mortgage. So, we're going to be working on that. But, the real thing here, and again, it's depending on what you're doing, is, I started my career out, I lived on the tip wages. So no tax on wages is a pretty good start.
The no tax on tips, by the way, is major. We're going to see now more money in consumers' pockets, which will stimulate bottom-up consumer spending. But I do want to, and I love all of that, and I agree with you on the student loan situation. First of all, we shouldn't penalize the blue-collar workers that don't have student loans, but we have to find some way to navigate this. I think we got to get colleges to start to pay it. That's my opinion. Start to have colleges have some portion of the student loan repayment. But I want to put 439 up on screen here. This is the real blue-collar wage growth. This is a remarkable accomplishment, Mr. Secretary, that I know you want to emphasize. Walk us through what we are seeing on this chart here. This is officially from the Department of Treasury. It's year-to-date real hourly earnings, growth for production and non-supervisory workers. What are we looking at here?
So, Charlie, what it shows us is that President Trump is the working American president. So for the first 5 months of any presidential term here, we go back to Richard Nixon. President Trump's current term since January 20th has seen the fastest blue-collar wage growth, 1.7% real hourly earnings, and that the second biggest wage growth was in President Trump's first term. So we can see the dedication that his policies have for working Americans, and all this is before the one big beautiful bill kicks in.
And so you've mentioned this on previous segments, and I want to emphasize this. The tariffs, we were told, were going to collapse the economy. We were told that the entire trade portfolio was going to result in just economic collapse. What would you say is driving this? And how will tariffs then play into this massive tax cut deregulatory agenda?
So, Charlie, it's amazing what President Trump has done since January 20th. He's, and maybe we'll talk about it later, but it's peace deals, trade deals, and tax deals, which everyone said couldn't be done, or certainly couldn't be done by the 4th of July. We've all seen he has transformed the discussion in the Middle East, Congo and Rwanda, which hasn't gotten much publicity. He's working on Russia, Ukraine. We're going to sign this tax deal tomorrow. And then to your question on tariffs, we have changed the discussion here on the trade fairness with the U.S. The president has used tariffs as I always say, Alexander Hamilton was the original tariff man. He liked tariffs for two reasons. One, to protect U.S. industry. Two, revenues for the Treasury. And now three, President Trump is now using tariffs to negotiate. And here at Treasury, at the Commerce Department, USTR, the trade representative, there is long-term senior staff who in 20, 30 years said that they have never seen the deals that we are getting from tough countries, like Vietnam, some of the other trade deals that we're going to announce. But the dog that didn't bark was the idea that tariffs were going to collapse the economy, they were going to create big inflation, that they were going to kill the stock market. As you said earlier, we're at a new high in the market, and for my 35-year career in the financial investment business, I always listened to what the market was telling me. And the market is saying that this is good for the economy. And in terms of paying down debt, I don't agree with the CBO scoring on the deficit, but I always counter the people who want to quote the CBO. I said, CBO says that there's going to be 2.8 trillion of tariff income over the next 10 years. And that pays down a lot of debt.
Yeah, and it offsets the working class tax cuts. It offsets the necessary tax cuts. And in closing here, Mr. Secretary, so I know you got to run and you have a lot in front of you. Of all the big, beautiful bill elements, what parts are you most excited about that you don't think have gotten adequate media attention? We have the $1,000 baby investment account. We have obviously some drill baby drill. What do you wish as Treasury Secretary of the United States would get more attention that you think is going to supercharge growth in the economy? Parts of this major bill, please.
I Charlie, what I like about this bill is the parallel prosperity. So it's good for business, good for working people, and the intersection of that is really in this 100% expensing for equipment. And for the next 5 years, you're going to be, if you're building a factory in the United States, you are going to be able to expense 100% of the factory structure. So we have made the United States of America the best place to start a business, deregulation, tax certainty. But now you can write the entire, all your equipment expenses off in 1 year. And I tell you, in the first Trump term, that is what drove the growth, because it is real after-tax returns are what drive productivity, and we are in the middle of this big productivity boom. So as I said, I would expect starting on Monday, all these projects that have been on hold, waiting for the certainty for the tax bill, this expensing is going to be very powerful.
30 seconds.
And we made it permanent.
30 seconds. Are we going to see any rate cuts? I know you can't tell us any inside information, but too late, Powell. What is going on here? Because we need to start to see rate cuts. It's major for the economy.
That the market's pricing in 2 rate cuts for the year. That seems about right. The 2-year bond is much lower than the overnight rate, and When asked about the Fed, I said, look, if they don't go sooner, it just means they have to do more later, which is the history of being late.
Well, President Trump has branded him as too late, pal. Mr. Secretary, again, sincerely, you were working your tail off. It's appreciated. It's noticed. And thank you for all of the accomplishments. And it's hard to believe it's not even been 6 months. We have your back. Thank you so much.
Good. Charlie, thanks. Always good to be with you.
You too. Thank you. ReliefFactor.com. What a great interview. By the way, the market is up, inflation is down, blue-collar wages are up, and we are barely just touching the surface of this economic boom. There is so much pent-up psychological optimism in this country that's just going to go up. So much of the economy is mindset. I'm going to talk about that after the break. And we like to think the economy is just dollars and cents, but as someone who does investing, and someone that has been, behind major business decisions, we have 1,000 employees, $100 million we raise a year. I could tell you a lot of business is psychology. I'm going to explain that after the break, because I don't think it gets as much attention as it should. If you guys have trouble getting to sleep, go to ReliefFactor.com. That is ReliefFactor.com for their latest supplement called Z Factor. So check it out right now at ReliefFactor.com. That is ReliefFactor.com. 1-800-4-RELIEF, and that is 1-800-4-RELIEF. See how with less pain you can say yes to more of everything you want. Go to ReliefFactor.com. Living with everyday aches and pains, like having a voice that always says, no, you can't do that. No, you can't play your favorite sport. Go to ReliefFactor.com. That is ReliefFactor.com. Email us, freedom@charliekirk.com. Subscribe to our podcast. We'll be right back.
Charlie Kirk Show, where truth lives.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. We have the event of the summer. It's going to be unlike anything you've ever seen. I mean, who's ever put together a group like this? The Turning Point USA staff deserves such credit. Pete Hegseth, Christino, Donald Trump Jr., Tucker Carlson, Greg Gutfeld, Steve Bannon. Let's play cut 51.
They said Gen Z would stay silent, that we'd back down, that we'd forget what's worth fighting for. But this generation remembers. We remember truth. We remember freedom. And now, we rise. This is more than a conference. It's a call to action, to reclaim the future, to ignite a movement that cannot be ignored. Student Action Summit 2025, featuring the boldest voices in the fight. Charlie Kirk, Secretary Pete Hegseth, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Brett Cooper, Secretary Kristi Noem, Riley Gaines, Brandon Tatum, Jack Posobiec, Laura Ingraham, Megyn Kelly, Greg Gutfeld, Tom Homan, Congressman Byron Donalds, Russell Brand, Savannah Chrisley. Join thousands of students, future leaders, and freedom fighters. This is the battleground of ideas. This is the Student Action Summit. Register now at SAS2025.com.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to our podcast. We're here at the Bitcoin.com studio. What a phenomenal interview with Scott Bessent. So much of the economy is psychological. A steady hand is so key. So right now, you might not think it impacts you. Right now, there are 10,000 conference rooms filled with bean counters, accountants, which is fine, lawyers, which they're the no people. They tell you no all the time. And then there is the CEO and maybe a kind of a VP, and they have to game out their financial decisions and their investments for the next 2 or 3 years. So let's just take a company like Chili's, baby back ribs, which Chili's is actually doing very well right now. They're like a rocket ship. Chili's is now sitting in their conference room, and they're trying to figure out, are we going to build new restaurants? Are we going to hire more people? Are we going to expand new locations? Are we going to diversify our menu? Are we going to upgrade? Or are we going to be cautious? Take other, you could take a million different examples of this, literally tens of thousands of examples. Hilton Hotels. Hilton Hotels is sitting right now in their conference room, and they say, what is the vibe? And they're starting to realize that investment money is pouring into this country, the tax bill. So then they get a signal of psychology. It's not just numbers. So much of business is trying to peek around the corner and see what is coming next. And President Donald Trump is doing something that Biden never did and Obama never did. He's just relentlessly bragging and cheerleading on the country. I know this might sound silly, but just having a cheerleader for America and the American economy does so much. President Trump saying we're the hottest country, invest, spend. All of a sudden, people psychologically start to act that way. Gas prices are going down. So take the Chili's example. Chili's says, wow, we get 100% depreciation. Let's go redo a lot of our restaurants. Or Chipotle, or Starbucks, or whatever brand, Olive Garden, doesn't matter. So 100% depreciation will unleash capital expenditures. You might say, oh, how does that help me? That's a tax cut for the rich. You see, that's why Hakeem the Dream Dollar Store Obama doesn't understand any of this. So let's say Chili's, baby back ribs, says we are now going to take advantage of the 100% depreciation tax cut, 100%, and we're now going to redo 100 restaurants. Well, who does that work then? Well, the welders, the carpenters, the electricians. All of a sudden, you guys are going to have more work than you can handle, and you already have a bunch of work. How about the 100% depreciation when it comes to heavy machinery? John Deere, the auto manufacturing, for buying American cars. We're going to see huge demand and capital incentives on the tax code to then invest. Right now, the conference rooms are filled with decision makers, and I can tell you because I talk to a lot of them. I have a Zoom call today, literally as soon as the call is done. As soon as the show is done, I have literally 2 Zoom calls with multiple billionaires. I could tell you, and I ask them. I love asking them questions. And by the way, tonight I have another dinner. Literally today, I'm talking to decision makers, and they're like, "Man, the vibes are back. There's a lot of investment chatter. Things are feeling better. We're opening more restaurants. We're investing in more hotels. We're buying more land. We're revamping. We're redoing." This is going to push job growth and labor growth for the welders, the framers, the foundation layers, electricians, and the roofers, and also the business managers and the managers. It's actually a bottom-up, top-down victory. It's a full spectrum economic reset. And then here's where it gets fun. The rest of the world sees it because, remember, we're only 5% of the world's population, and they want to invest here too. So you have the ruling class of Saudi Arabia, of the Emirates, well, not of Iran, they can go to hell, the ruling class of Qatar, the ruling class of Vietnam. All of a sudden, they want to invest in this country. And this pushes back against the Mamdanis, the Luigis, the AOCs. And remember that, the trifecta, that I want you to commit that to memory. It's very important. The Mamdani, Luigi, AOC, that is the resentment, bitter, dangerous version of the Democrat Party. When the workers get a shot in the arm, when the economy works for the workers, all of a sudden things are going to start to get better. But I can tell you right now that the psychological capital expenditures are going to increase because the vibes are back. Right now in those conference rooms, people are talking about expansion because if you don't grow, you die. And if you miss a growth curve, understand that if you are running like a Chili's or a Chipotle or a Starbucks and you play it conservatively and you don't grow when your competitors grow, that could be the difference between succeeding or bankruptcy. And no one wants to be left out. So what President Trump has done is he has created the biggest, most compelling financial FOMO in American history. And every single conference room is now filled with decision makers that want to get in. And you're going to see an economic boom that is significant, legitimate, and bottom up. Second hour members call coming up.
Tried to shut them up.
There's no guarantee to free speech.
They tried to cancel them.
Deplatforming works.
They even threw them in jail.
Peter Navarro,
Steve Bannon,
now in prison.
But they couldn't stop them.
It's not a prison bill that will ever shut me up.
They call them rebels.
Basket of deplorables.
They call them rogues.
They claim to guns or religion.
And they say they're outlaws.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
War Room presents Rebels, Rogues, and Outlaws.
You set out to take Vienna. Take Vienna!
The national bestseller by longtime Bannon producer Dan Fluette. Take a journey through the pictorial history of War Room in a culture that celebrates the weak. Show your support by standing with the rebels. Go to doitfluette.com or scan the QR code on your screen. Use the code RAV20 for 20% off your order. Stand with the rebels and never back down.
Welcome back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. We appreciate you being here with us. We're expecting a final House vote on President Trump's one big beautiful bill at some point in time today. Here's a live shot of the House floor where House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has been at the microphone quite literally all morning long trying to push back that vote. President Trump obviously watching what's happening on the House floor as well. He's headed to Des Moines, Iowa here in just a little bit. That's where our Real America's Voice Chief White House correspondent, Brian Glenn is right now. Brian, so obviously I suspect you're watching what's happening there at the House as well. The expectation, however, is that the one big beautiful bill will be passed at some point in time today.
Yeah, Terrence, if I was to speculate what time that vote will happen, the over-under is around 2:15, 2:30 local time there in D.C. as Hakeem Jeffries is trying to, break the record for Kevin McCarthy to speak on the floor on that miracle minute they get. So once he's done with that, Speaker Johnson will spend about 5 minutes addressing the Congress, and then they will go to the final vote on this. Now, that's assuming that we had all those previously people that were a no, that they have flopped and converted to a yes on that. Now, we do know we have Thomas Massie. He is a hard no. No one's going to change his mind on that. But the others, I think, over the night, Terrence, President Trump was able to have these personal phone calls with these members, and either whether it was concessions or perhaps it was fear of being primaried in 26, they've changed their minds to a yes, but we'll see how that goes down. Likely around 2:15, 2:30 D.C. time.
Now, President Trump has been intimately involved in the negotiations, particularly overnight. There's word that he was up as early as 1:30, 2:30, talking with some of those outliers. What are you hearing in terms of, once this does pass, getting it signed into law? Because I'm sure they want to get that done ASAP because it is a legislative victory.
Yeah, it is a legislative victory. I was even watching CNN earlier today, and the anchor had Watcherman Schultz on to get her feedback on this one big, beautiful bill. And the CNN anchors even said, hey, you've got all these things, low inflation, low gas prices, low egg prices are down, all these big wins that President Trump has had, and said, how did the Democrats message against this? And she had nothing else to say but, well, it's basically a hate Trump campaign. And the Democrats in a very particular situation right now, because President Trump has had an amazing week, it's had an amazing term since his inauguration. So what I anticipate this happening, once this bill gets signed, it will go straight back to President Trump's desk. I anticipate that bill being signed sometime in the later afternoon tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be a morning thing. I think it'll be towards the afternoon, but this will be signed on his desk tomorrow, and this will be put in action because, as you know, thousands, or I should say millions of Americans will benefit from the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, additional Social Security money that you'll have in your wallet. This is investment in this country. It's border security. It's national security. It's a lot on the line here. Biggest tax cut in American history. If this thing would not pass, Terrence, guess what? Your taxes could go up to about 64% of what there are right now. So a lot on the line today in Washington, D.C., around 2:30.
Absolutely. Nobody wants their taxes to go up. Let's talk about why you're there in Des Moines, Iowa. President Trump will be joining you there in short order.
Yeah, I'm just down the street from the state's capital here in Des Moines, big golden dome behind me. Then past that, about a mile, is the fairgrounds of Iowa. He made a promise back in the caucus that he was going to return to the Hawkeye State and kick off this 250th anniversary of our country. He has made good on that promise. It starts today around 4 o'clock with the speakers. Our coverage starts here on Real America Voice a little bit before that, around 3 o'clock Eastern time. But we're going to go all the way to the night, 7:30. President Trump is scheduled to speak with fireworks after that. It should be a great day here in Iowa's capital of Des Moines. And, of course, kicking off a great 4th of July weekend.
Well, fireworks show that there's a reason to celebrate, and President Trump very likely will have a reason to celebrate this evening once the one big beautiful bill ultimately is passed. Brian Glenn reporting for us this morning in Des Moines, Iowa. We'll be checking in with you, Brian, throughout the day. That's going to do it for this Real America's Voice news break. We appreciate you being here with us. Now, let's get you back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to our podcast. We're here at the Bitcoin.com studio. That is the Bitcoin.com studio. This is my favorite hour of the week. We're off tomorrow. Tomorrow is Independence Day, and that is a day of celebration and reverence, so we are off. This weekend, I'm actually going to be with the Vice President of the United States on Saturday, J.D. Vance. Feels good to be able to say that. And then Sunday, I will be giving 2 messages at Dream City Church about Independence Day. So I do that every year. I speak at Dream City Church on Independence Day Sunday. So I will be doing that this Sunday. And then I have a couple days to kind of catch my breath. And then we will be at the Student Action Summit, SAS2025.com. That is SAS2025.com. By the way, my daughter's watching and she loves seeing Nemo. So there he is. Let's go to the first question. That is, I believe, Bonnie. Bonnie, thank you for being a member. Members.charliekirk.com. What's on your mind?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Bonnie, how are you? What's on your mind?
Oh, it's wonderful to finally talk to you, Charlie. It's the first time I've been able to join. God bless you for all you're doing for our country.
Thank you.
My question, my young adult son's eyes were open to a lot of the lies during COVID and Biden and Trump, and that made me thrilled that he's questioning things. But now I'm hearing things from him that it makes me fear for his discernment. For example, he expressed some anti-Semitic takes on history that maybe Hitler's motives for wanting to be rid of the Jews weren't so wrong, even if how he went about it was evil. And my fear is that in going from one extreme to another, trusting the mainstream media and government to now questioning or distrusting everything, he's believing different lies. So I'd like to know where he's getting these lies. I've heard a little bit about the Groypers from Not the Bee. I'd never heard that term before. So my question to you is this. Do you know some of the names of the influencers who are taking advantage of the conservative youth movement?
So thank you. So first of all, I do know the names. I'm not going to repeat them because that only makes them and their little irrelevant circle bigger. But yes, there's a couple thoughts. So Bonnie, I'll tell you this. So as soon as you were reading your question, this is how intimately familiar I am with this. As soon as you said, well, my son had his eyes open during COVID, I could tell the cadence of the question. I wrote in our chat, her son has probably become in depth in anti-Semitic stuff. I knew it before you even asked the question, Bonnie. And that's not a criticism. It's just we're seeing so much of this. And so this is a huge challenge because, of course, we should question and we should find baseline truth. However, if you dig so deep past foundational reality, you start to all of a sudden it becomes very transgressive. It's addictive because it becomes so taboo. And so, for example, Holocaust denial is illegal in Europe. Should it be illegal? No. Is it repulsive from the pit of hell? Yes. And this is a major challenge it's mostly young white men. I'm guessing that your son's a white man, I'm guessing. And
yes.
Just shot in the dark. Now, one of the reasons why it's a challenge for young white conservative disposed men is because they feel as if they have to keep on peeling back the onion to find a conspiracy when in reality there might not always be one. And sometimes you're searching in the wrong direction. Social media then pushes it. And then, of course, people then call for censorship of it. And so everyone gets confirmation bias when they see anything. So here's one of the major problems. One of the major problems is that a lot of these narratives appeal to secret knowledge, otherwise known as Gnosticism. At the core of so much of the Jew hatred and the anti-Semitism is an appeal of Gnosticism. We have secret knowledge, and there's this dark alley that the search for secret knowledge can go. And of course, you know this on this program. We've never been an apologist for everything that the Israeli government has ever done. But anyone with a decent moral compass should reject the scapegoating of Jews. By the way, you want to talk about low IQ, just such sloppy, shallow, reprehensible behavior, blaming an entire group for all of your problems. And there is a much better way, which is you have to, of course, acknowledge that the Israeli government does not do everything right. Who does? You have to apologize for it. But number two, They're not to blame for all of the world's ills either. This particular affliction blames the Jews for everything. There is knowledge, they say, and by the way, there is knowledge that is secret and correct. Like 15 years ago, immigration is a disaster for America. They don't integrate and they exploit our system. That was basically secret knowledge as well. It was secret knowledge to simply say that white men are discriminated against college. However, at times, and we see this with the Jew hatred, there is just this momentum that is occurring where people think that they're onto something, but in reality, they're not. And unfortunately, these are a lot of people that need to be told to start taking responsibility for their own actions and don't blame other people for your problems, especially a group of people that is 0.02% of the world's population. And here's where it gets people very angry. It is fundamentally a liberal attitude to blame other people for your problems. The left blames white men, and some people blame the Jews. So I'm not going to tell you the influencers here on air. I know who obviously they all are here, Bonnie. But here's the best way to respond. Make sure that he finds, let's say, people such as myself or even Matt Walsh that have a much more reasonable approach to these issues, because it's very tempting to engage. And yet I hate the term conspiracy theory because so many conspiracy theories have turned up. But it is very tempting to engage in, let's just say, deep internet theories that are constantly have the goalposts changing, that quite honestly are rooted in lunacy and rooted in complete nonsensical type stuff. It is more helpful to first take a step back and say, what exactly do you believe and why do you believe it? I find this is a symptom of being hyper online. Bonnie, can I ask you, and I don't want to out your son, but what are some of the things that he is saying that would you find to be most troubling?
That one in particular really troubled me. My father was a World War II vet who freed a Holocaust, Buchenwald. And so when he said that Hitler's motives were maybe not so bad, that the Jews own all the banks and they seem to be behind everything that he's been reading. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute here. Hitler? Seriously? No. The Holocaust is real. And he's like, well, I learned about the Holocaust. And I was like, I don't think you're learning the right things right now.
Yeah, no, you're right. So Bonnie, thank you for, pressing pause on that. I hope this is a wake-up call for the audience that I don't just fight radical left-wing lunacy. At times, I have to fight people that have devolved into very dark stuff. It's weird when people want to defend Hitler. Like, if you think forever wars in America are bad, why can't you hate a guy who started a global war completely electively and destroyed his own country, and he attacked his neighbors and got destroyed? Bonnie, thank you. Happy to talk more offline, but I would encourage him more than anything else. Read the Bible. Scripture. Not online influencers, not even the Charlie Kirk show. Scripture. The teachings of Jesus Christ that will point him and set him in the right direction. Thank you so much, Bonnie, and thank you for being a member.
Keep up the great fight for freedom.
God bless you. Thank you. Alan Jackson Ministries is a great partner of the program. Go to alanjackson.com. We are honored to be partnering with Alan Jackson Ministries. And today, I want to tell you about Pastor Alan and a book that you'll want to read. It's called God Bless America. Again, it tells the truth about our history, but our nation was formed on biblical principles and the importance of protecting our Judeo-Christian foundations as we move forward. God has given us an assignment to bring our faith into our world today. And here's the catch. It starts with focusing on our own attitudes. When you take time to understand how God has consistently blessed America, pouring his grace and mercy on us over and over again, will give you hope for the best days ahead. We cannot afford to forget our past, good and bad, or we will forfeit the best opportunities of our future. God Bless America, again, will sharpen your perspective on what it means to bring God's truth into our nation today. Go to alanjackson.com/Charlie for free shipping. That is God Bless America. Again, go to alanjackson.com. That is alanjackson.com/Charlie for free shipping on God Bless America again. So go to alanjackson.com/Charlie for free shipping of God Bless America again. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show podcast page. If you want to join this show, become a member today, members.charliekirk.com. That is members.charliekirk.com. Do we want to go through the breaks, Daisy? Do we have that many questions? If not, we can take a break. Would it be wise? Yes, let's go to Chung Hong. Let's go to Chung Hong after the break. Email me, freedom@charliekirk.com. Get your tickets to Student Action Summit, SAS2025.com, SAS2025.com. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. I apologize profusely. Chun Hong, I hope I'm not pronouncing your name. Thank you for being a member. What is on your mind?
Sure. Hey, Charlie, great to meet you. And thank you for taking my call. You did my name beautifully. You did well. Don't worry. And huge Charlie Kirk fan. Took my daughter to YWLS recently in Dallas. So enjoy your events.
Thank you.
Quite a few questions I listed. One most top of mind is the BBB, Big Beautiful Bill question. Huge Trump supporter, love everything he has been doing. Bring world peace, build a strong economy. I am a little bit puzzled about BBB because, hey, I agree 80-90% of the bill. I do have some concerns over the fact that it explodes the budget, like the national debt, by that much and for that long. I don't know. And part of me just feel, hey, delivering the campaign promises is great. Passing the BBB bill should unite among MAGA instead of splitting.
Correct.
I really wonder if there are a few places where we can give the public a bit more education, explanation, clarification, to help people to understand how come it incurs the budget to be so big spend, right? I think, for example, really quick, you were, interviewing the border czar the other day. You were asking, I think you were getting some of the questions I have in my mind. You're asking, hey, how many people are we deporting per day? 2,000. Okay, after BBB passes, how many do we expect to be able to deport per day? Like, I'm making it up. We did not get a quite good answer, but I wonder, hey, 8,000. If 8,000 per day with all the infusing in budget, how many years does it take to deport all the ones we need to deport, right? So can someone help bridge the math between the 2 billion to the 45 billion? We're doing the right things, but I wonder if a little bit more transparency, education, and bridging the math, right, would help more people to be united behind this budget, this bill. It breaks my heart to see Elon and Trump.
So really quick, so this is the best we could do with the numbers that we have. And so the minimum deportations we're going to get is 1 million per year. It's not a perfect bill, but it is a great bill. We have mass deportations. We have amazing tax cuts. We still have a lot of welfare reform. It's not enough, but it's a good start. It's a solid baseline. I'm not going to say here and say this is a perfect bill, but it has so much good in it that it would be a tragic mistake not to pass. Thank you so much for being a member. Really appreciate it. I want to remind you guys to come to our Student Action Summit. And that is coming up a week from tomorrow. That's right, a week from tomorrow. Can you believe it? Let's play cut 51, please.
They said Gen Z would stay silent, that we'd back down, that we'd forget what's worth fighting for. But this generation remembers. We remember truth. We remember freedom. And now, we rise. This is more than a conference. It's a call to action, to reclaim the future, to ignite a movement that cannot be ignored. Student Action Summit 2025, featuring the boldest voices in the fight. Charlie Kirk, Secretary Pete Hegseth, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Brett Cooper, Secretary Kristi Noem, Riley Gaines, Brandon Tatum, Jack Posobiec, Laura Ingraham, Megyn Kelly, Greg Gutfeld, Tom Homan, Congressman Byron Donalds, Russell Brand, Savannah Chrisley. Join thousands of students, future leaders, and freedom fighters. This is the battleground of ideas. This is the Student Action Summit. Register now at SAS2025.com.
That is SAS2025.com. So let's just go through the list again. We have Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump Jr., We have Tucker Carlson. We have Steve Bannon. We have Greg Gutfeld. We have Laura Ingraham. You're never going to find a lineup quite like this. We have Riley Gaines. There's going to be amazing, amazing lineup. SAS2025.com, SAS2025.com. Stay right there. Welcome back, everybody. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to our podcast. That is the Charlie Kirk Show podcast page. Let's go to the next member. Who do we have here? Daisy's got to put it in. Brett, thank you for being a member. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to say you're a hero of mine. And you're my number one political advocate. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. And I also have a signed hat by you. But my question is for you, sir. As a teacher, how can I do more to reverse the perverse indoctrination of my students during the past 4 years?
Well, so as a teacher, first and foremost, you should reject any of the transgender LGBTQ nonsense that might be thrown into the curriculum. Any of the DEI stuff, you should not be imparting left-wing values onto the kids that you teach under any circumstances possible. And let me remind you, these are not your children. They are the parents' children that you are instructing. Sometimes teachers blur those lines. You must realize that you are a temporary employee to do a job. Sometimes teachers are like, oh, my kids. Ooh, I don't like that language. I know that's not what you're saying. But the best way to understand is that you must always involve parents in this. Say the Pledge of Allegiance. Talk about the Constitution. No pride flags, no DEI, no talk about homosexual, sexual encounters, which is what they're doing now. They're teaching kids how to put condoms on cucumbers at the age of 10. It's disgusting. It's repulsive. It has no place. By the way, you know who funds all that stuff? Planned Parenthood funds a lot of it, which is one of the reasons why we're also defunding them. But thank you, Brett, for being a teacher, and teach them writing and math and teach them character. Tell the truth. Don't interrupt each other. And finally, the best thing you can do, no phones in your classroom. Do you allow phones in your classroom, Brett?
Try not to, as much as possible.
You got to be like total fascist with this stuff. No, I'm saying that jokingly. No phones at all whatsoever. Ban the phones, to put them in a Dropbox. No, that's my take. You as a teacher, just being like, no, like you should have a no phone policy. Just go full iron fist. Take the phones away. Go. Yes, sir. Your final thought?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, yes, sir, I totally agree. And I appreciate the advice. It's invaluable.
Thank you so much. Have a great Independence Day. Joining us next is Grace. Grace, thank you for being a member. What's on your mind? Members.charliekirk.com. Grace, you're going to break the streak.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, how are you?
Okay, I'm good. How are you?
I am great. What's on your mind?
Well, so I've just been listening to you for a really long time, and I know you have really strong opinions on college, and I really agree with all of them. But as I don't really have a plan for my life in the future right now, and as I head into college and just life in general, I was wondering how I could go about finding a godly man.
Well, so great question. What is the most important thing for you? Would it be career or building a family?
Building a family.
Great. So I got in so much trouble when I said this at the Young Women's Leadership Summit because people didn't listen to what I said. So let me repeat it, which is that finding a husband is your top priority. I said that repeatedly at YWLS and no one listened. If it's your top priority, then you should go into college with the intent of the MRS degree. Now, people laugh all the time, which is, of course, finding a husband. And people laugh all the time. I say, that's a great reason to go to college if that is your top priority. There are a lot of godly men. If you go to any SEC school, a lot of them are degenerates. But there's a lot of godly men, I got to tell you, Grace, that love the Lord, that are in prime mating age. And by the way, I'm trying to understand why the media found what I said so objectionable. Because I said only if it's your top priority. I didn't say all women should go to get an MRS degree. If you want to go study, engineering or whatever, that's fine. But Blake's sister, for example, is a great example. He says, look, his sister went to engineering school just to get a husband, succeeded, has 3 kids at 26. Praise the Lord. That's amazing. So if that is your top priority, go into college with the say, hey, I'm trying to find a husband here. That's okay. Actually, that's not a scam. If you're going to college for 4 years around a bunch of young men in a prime dating age, and here's the key. If you really want to find a godly man, I'm going to tell you a secret. You ready? Mm-hmm. Go to an engineering school. They're like 70% men. Go to Purdue. They're like it's like 75% male. The male to female ratio, go to a church in West Lafayette, Indiana at Purdue. When I did my Prove Me Wrong at Purdue, we had like 5,000 people. And do you know what? All of the young men at Purdue were good, stable, practical men. They weren't dramatic. They weren't into all like lesbian feminism theory. They're like very serious, and they'll earn a lot of money, and they want to find a wife. So Grace, if finding a husband is your top priority, I will defend the MRS degree thing. People lose their mind when I say this. I say, no, go to college with the intent to marry if that's your top priority, and you'll have a much higher likelihood than getting a degree and becoming a CEO of a shoe company and then starting when you're 31. God bless you, Grace. We'll talk more after the break.
It's almost Independence Day, and all of America will be celebrating. But here in Real America's Voice, we want to celebrate you. Every day from June 30th through July 4th, we're giving away a handcrafted, hand-painted hardwood flag to one lucky RAV viewer. These beautiful flags come from YourAmericanFlagStore.com, where 10% of every purchase goes to Your American Flag Foundation. Scan the QR code to opt in for your chance to win and receive future RAV promotions from our hearts for your home. Use code RAV for free shipping.
On President Trump's big, beautiful beautiful bill is expected to happen at some point in time, either later today or definitely at some point in time today. Here's a live look at the House floor where Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has the floor and continues to try and delay the vote as long as possible. He's been speaking since early this morning and may be trying to break the record of speaking on the floor for more than 8 hours and 32 minutes. Right now, he's probably at about 6 or 7 hours. In the meantime, it appears that President Trump and House leaders have secured the necessary votes to get the One Big Beautiful Bill passed. We're, of course, told that President Trump was on the phone with potential Republican holdouts early this morning working to flip their votes. The White House, in the meantime, already scheduling a signing ceremony for the bill tomorrow, anticipating House passage at some point in time today. We'll be covering it for you live here on Real America's Voice as we wait for House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, whom you see there, to wrap up his filibuster, if you will, and then we can get to voting. Stay tuned to Real America's Voice for the very latest. And in other headlines, at least 7 people still missing following a fire and blast at a Northern California fireworks warehouse. We're going to show you the video here. It's a reminder of just how dangerous fireworks can be if you plan to fire some off during this 4th of July weekend. Look at that explosion there. As you can see, the blast ignited some of the fireworks that were being stored inside the building. It also forced people living nearby to be evacuated from their homes just as a precaution. The cause of the initial fire remains under investigation at the moment. The pyrotechnics company, which owns the facility, is out with a statement saying, in part, our hearts and thoughts are with those we lost, their families, and everyone impacted in our community. That's a quick check of your headlines. I'm Terrence Bates.
An all-new greatest American generation. It's the Charlie Kirk Show.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. And subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show podcast. Make sure you guys check out Bitcoin.com. That is the Bitcoin.com studio, the Bitcoin.com studio. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to our podcast. What do we have, guys? I want to make sure you guys make the switch. That is at patriotmobile.com/Charlie. patriotmobile.com/Charlie. You've heard me talk about Patriot Mobile for a while now. You probably already know that for years, they've stood in the gap for every American who believes that faith, family, freedom are worth fighting for. They are the real deal. But did you know they've got cutting-edge technology, too? Switching is easy. No store visits, no hassle. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team can activate you in minutes, right over the phone. And get this, Patriot Mobile is one of the few carriers with access to all 3 major U.S. networks. So go to patriotmobile.com/Charlie. They have unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, internet on-the-go devices, and home internet backups. Go to patriotmobile.com/Charlie. That is patriotmobile.com/Charlie, or call 972-PATRIOT, patriotmobile.com/Charlie. Make the switch today away from woke wireless to a company that shares your values. That is patriotmobile.com/Charlie, patriotmobile.com/Charlie. Brandon, thank you for being a member. Let's go, Brandon. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Charlie. Can you hear me?
I can, yes. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good. Please continue.
I was just wondering if we can get like a Charlie Kirk team reading list, you know, your reading list, what you have, what you've read, what you want to read, you know, maybe Blake's, and there's anyone who wants to pitch in, because like every time you mention a book on your show, I'll go Google it, screenshot it, and add it to an album. And then eventually, you know, I buy it or I work on buying it.
So we get this a lot. So let me just kind of go through some of the basics. Obviously, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is very, very important. Anything by C.S. Lewis, so Mere Christianity in particular, which I love. I'm currently working through a book called Doctrine by Mark Driscoll and Gary Bashirs, because it was recommended to me by a couple people. That is a serious read. I'll tell you what, it's 345 pages full. I mean, it is like It is a huge book. It's been actually taken me like a couple months. I encourage people to read 1984, Brave New World. I'm also planning to read I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by my friend Frank Turek. I've actually never read the book I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. Let me think about, I got like 300 books on my book stand, some of which I'm working through.
I finished your Right-Wing Revolution.
Oh, thank you.
And so that little section of the books you recommended, I put all those in my Amazon cart, and I've ordered a couple. I'm reading the Federalist Papers right now. That's taking a little bit.
Amazing. What do you do?
So I'm not in college right now, but I go to school. I have a year left. But right now I'm a groundskeeper at John Deere. So I listen to your podcast all day. Allie Beth Stuckey, I'm taking Hillsdale online courses right now.
That's what I'm talking about. I love it.
And then I get home and read as much as I can.
Well, that first of all, yes, charlieforhillsdale.com is just phenomenal. charlieforhillsdale.com. Let me recommend a couple other books to you. I love the book Good to Great. It's very good for business scaling if you have kind of a business mind. I really enjoyed The Conservative Mind. I read that a couple summers ago. Obviously, The Road to Serfdom is kind of a no-brainer. Churchill wrote a bunch of books. I think he had The History of the English-Speaking Peoples. I think that was it. I actually have never read it, but people.
Yeah, you recommended that one.
Yeah,
in your book.
Highly recommend. I still need to read that. You could also, if you want a more provocative, The Death of the West by Patrick Buchanan is a fabulous book. And then I love The Book That Built Your World by Vishal Mangalwaldi. I love it. It brags about Western civilization and about the beauty of the Bible from an Indian outsider's perspective. It's really fabulous. So we got to do a better job of cataloging that at charliekirk.com. But I've had my head down on literally just one book for a month and a half. That's a long time for me, just trying to summarize one book. I also read another book by Jonathan Haidt recently called The Anxious Generation. Highly recommend it. It's very well studied, thoroughly researched. It's very funny. By the way, Hakeem the Dream, Dollar Store Obama is done. Great, terrific. But Anxious Generation is really good. But you can literally summarize Anxious Generation in one big lesson. Cell phones are awful for kids. So it's like that's the whole book. But I've also read Dopamine Nation, yes, by Anna Lembke. I read it. Very, very good. So I love those books. And by the way, I have another book coming out. Should be in December. I still need to put an editing team and committee together. So Blake, you're going to have some work on your hands. But it's called Stop in the Name of God, Why Honoring the Shabbat Will Transform Your Life. Thank you, Brett. God bless you, man. Come and stay a lifelong learner. charlieforhillsdale.com. Okay, the next member's name is Choo Choo. What is on your
Hello.
name? How are you?
Can you hear me, Charlie? How are you? It's an honor. It's an honor. So, hey, I am a naturalized immigrant. Okay, so when these leftists talk about, immigrant community, they're not talking about us. Okay, there are millions of naturalized Americans that are hell-bent on preserving the American dream, preserving Western civilization, preserving civil liberty, rule of law. So I follow you on Twitter, and I'm not just fighting the woke left. I'm fighting the woke right too. Bonnie earlier, the earlier caller, she was talking about, what I'm talking about. So the idea that, we come to America, cross our borders illegally, and not be accountable for it is laughable. So I am fighting alongside with you. I live in Arizona, and I in fact intend to, attend the Turning Point USA, maybe physically see you and have a tea with you. So I love you, man. So you're younger than me. Keep the fight. I will definitely keep the fight. These immigrants, we all love this country. We have to assimilate, right?
You have to assimilate. Absolutely. Yeah. So talk about assimilation. What do you think? What do you think of people that come to America that don't assimilate?
It's not right. It's not right. Let me tell you my story. I came from a socialist country. Okay?
Which one?
A communist country, ethno-nationalist. All these tribes ethno-nationalism. So they're ruining my country, right? Where I came from. I mean, my native country. I mean, my adopted country, America now, right? But I came from that country.
What country?
If I have to mention it, let me mention it. I was about to mention. So I came from Ethiopia. So that Ethiopia, in Northeast Africa, right now, is hell because of ethno-nationalism. So there are like 80 tribes, 80
that's right. Yes, that's so true.
So they're ruining the country. So now I left that like 2 decades ago, and it is following me here. And when I see this identity politics here, okay, I left my native country to come to freedom. And this identity politics, I'm white, I'm Jew, I'm black, I'm Latino, I'm Hispanic, it's following me here. What the heck? So I'm really, that's why I have joined you. I have joined the fight.
Thank you.
Because I have 3 beautiful children, okay, born here.
Wow,
I don't want to pass racism and ethno-nationalism to them. I want to pass a human race, a free country. Where the individual
this is
sovereign,
really
right?
profound what you're saying. Look, we're low on time, but I want to reiterate this. First of all, thank you for saying to assimilate, because we need more people like you to say this. But understand this, you come from a country that is rooted in tribalism. Tribalism is the lowest form of civilization. So civilization has different forms. Tribalism is the most elementary. To break above the tribe into a nation is a big deal, and we should not take it for granted. Is tribalism awful? Please remind our audience, how terrible is tribalism to live under? It is disgusting. It's divisive.
Awful. It's so they're killing each other. They're killing each other. Like if you see Ethiopia, millions are dying. People are raising arms to kill each other based on these immutable traits. I mean, you did not ask for God to create you as, say, Irishman or white man. And I did not ask for God to be created as a brown man, right? I'm a brown man. I mean, at least they call me brown here. So this is immutable traits. Politics should be on ideologies, not on immutable traits that you can't do anything about. So it's just unbelievably sad for Ethiopia and others. It's not just Ethiopia, but at least in Ethiopia, they made it political. But there are other countries that are almost being distracted because of this ethno-nationalism and racist policies they're following. So we don't want that in America. We have to follow the framers, the founders of this country, the individual. The individual should be sovereign, and we have to go with that liberal democratic plan.
And do you know, first of all, God bless you, and I want to meet you at some point. That's
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll arrange that. You know what I love about our program? We are consistent about America First agenda, mass deportations. We don't pander to any sort of ethnic group ever. And look at, all by accident, not even by design, not by accident, but just by organic activity, we have people that from Ethiopia, and we had someone earlier, I don't want to mispronounce it, but a name that I've never heard of before. And so we have someone that I would imagine being from Asia. And just think about it. When you stand firm on timeless principles, all of a sudden you don't have to work like the Democrats do, where they're trying to recreate Angelina Jolie's Christmas card. So all of a sudden, a lot of different people, they're attracted to liberty, they're attracted to strength, they're attracted to patriotism, they're attracted to merit. And it turns out that you get these incredible testimonials of people from Ethiopia. And I love when people that have come to this country legally say, if you don't assimilate, get out. That's exactly right. So I think that was
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. I look forward to physically meeting you.
Still on. Don't finish your
okay, thank you. Bye. Thank you, my friend. Have a good one.
Have a great day. And by the way, celebrate Independence Day, my friend. Celebrate Independence Day. We're going to go through
absolutely. We will have fireworks with my kids tomorrow. Definitely.
I love it. Do not burn. A lot of people. I know that's a great little factoid. Stay safe. A lot of people end up in the hospital tomorrow. The ER, they dread it. It's one of the worst days of the ER in the world. In the world, on the calendar. I was writing something else. Yeah, keep your fingers. If you talk to anybody that works in the emergency room, they dread July 4th. You know why? So many people that would otherwise just have beautiful nights, kids, 5, 6-year-olds, they get in terrible situations just for total recklessness. So yeah, I know we have a lot of pyrotechnics in this audience. And God bless you. It's your right to do it. I think it was Adams that said this day will be celebrated with drums and fireworks and cannons being shot. but just be wise and be prudent. We're going to go through the breaks. Get your tickets through our Student Action Summit, SAS2025.com. Be right back.
House Speaker Mike Johnson speaking right now on the floor of the House. Let's listen in.
Hispanic and Latino voters come to the Republican Party, a record number of Jewish voters and union workers and suburban women and urban voters. They came out in record numbers to join the Republican Party and the America First agenda with President Trump. That election was decisive. It was a bellwether. It was a time for choosing. And I tell you what, the American people chose overwhelmingly. They chose the Republican Party. And the reason they did that, they didn't come hesitantly. They came with hopeful anticipation. You know why? Because this is not your father's Democratic Party, okay? Amen. They went so far, full speed to the far left. And their radical, woke, progressive agenda, that nonsense that they tried to push on the people, was rejected by the people. Yeah. These new voters came to us. They had enough of the Biden-Harris madness and all the things they were trying to hoist upon the American people that they just don't believe in their hearts. And they were hopeful. They came to us with hope. They wanted us to restore common sense and accountability, and we promised to them that we would do just that. Those new demographics came to the Republican Party because of open borders wreaking havoc on their communities. They came because of weakness at home that fueled instability abroad, and because trillions in reckless spending put the price of gas and groceries further out of the reach for hardworking Americans. It wasn't right. President Trump and our Republican majority in Congress are fixing all of that right now. President Trump said this week, we're the hottest country in the world again. My friends, that is an objective truth. Hey, listen, how about all the wins for the president and this party? Here's just a sample from the last 2 weeks. The headline today will be, the one big beautiful bill passes the Congress, okay? You got to hold your applause. There's too many wins. Are you tired of winning yet? No! fourth jobs report in a row exceeds expectations. A sample of the headlines. Lowest monthly border encounters in U.S. history. We closed the border. Last couple of days, a new trade deal with Vietnam and all the countries of the world, around the world lining up for that. Penn agrees to ban biological men from women's sports. And they ought to give a personal apology to every female athlete impacted by that nonsense. Gas prices are at a 4-year low, my friends. The Air Force and Space Force both hit their 2025 recruiting goals 3 months early. Israel is agreeing to a 60-day ceasefire with Hamas. Successful strike on Iranian nuclear sites handles that problem. That's exactly right. Strength is back. America's back. It's resulted now in a ceasefire deal between Iran and Israel. The NATO countries are increasing their defense spending, not just 2%, 5% of GDP, okay? The president got in charge and got a Rwanda-Congo peace deal. The Supreme Court ended nationwide injunctions. How about that? That conservative majority on the Supreme Court also allows third country deportations. We've had a record high stock market, and we're signing a China trade deal. That's just the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks. So many simple truths to share and so little time to do it, because I want everybody to have a break here. But I just want to say this. It's really nice to hear my Democrat colleagues suddenly take an interest in working Americans again. Did you pick up on that theme today? Let's be clear. Working Americans stopped trusting Democrats a long time ago. That is a fact. They're looking to this side of the chamber. They're looking to the Republican Party and our principles to deliver the relief and the reform that they have long demanded, and they most certainly deserve. This big, beautiful bill fulfills all the promises of the America First agenda. It is the people's bill. It is made for and shaped by the most diverse coalition of American voters in American history. Today, we are making the dream of a government that puts the American people first a reality. A reality. I would need this entire notebook to tell you all the great things in the big, beautiful bill. It is aptly named, but I'll just tell you a couple of the highlights. Record tax cuts for hardworking Americans. Historic savings at the same time to end reckless spending. We got energy dominance coming back to power our future. We have a secure border to protect American families. We have a strong military to restore peace through strength. And we have a government that is now accountable and responsive to the people once again. That's what we're delivering. For everyday Americans, this means real positive change that they can feel, and they will feel much more when this bill is done. Families back home will have real relief, an average of $10,000 in their pockets, thanks to the largest working and middle-class tax cut in the history of this great nation. That's what we're doing today. You got hardworking Americans like our waiters and our bellhops and our hairstylists. They're going to keep 100% of their tips and overtime pay. That is money they earned. It does not belong to the government. It belongs to them, and they deserve to keep it. Small businesses that want to build and expand new factories, you know what they can do now? They can write off 100% of their investment. That will have us a lot more building. Young families who want to buy a home will be able to, thanks to historic savings that will put our country on a stronger financial footing. Pregnant women, children, seniors, single mothers, the disabled, and the low-income Americans among us receiving Medicaid and SNAP will have the peace of mind of knowing that we've made these safety nets stronger with our reforms. See, when Republicans are in charge, we bring common sense. We're going to make sure that Americans who do need and deserve those critical programs won't have to compete against people who can work but choose not to do so. That's not right. This bill is going to put fairness back in the system. We are returning to common sense. We're returning to what is good and decent that people know in their hearts, and that's why they support it. More Americans will be working, volunteering, and serving their communities because modest, common sense work requirements will restore dignity and purpose to those on taxpayer-funded benefits. The bill will also mean that safer streets are available in every zip code around the country because our border will remain fully and totally secure. The Republican Party stands for law and order, and this is the side that stands with law enforcement, the brave men and women who are on the front line. The idea that those who put their own lives on the line to protect us would be assaulted for doing their jobs is unconscionable. Law enforcement, I know you agree. I know, amen. Law enforcement will have the help of a border wall now that's 100% complete. From more manpower and resources, our immigration enforcement officers will get a boost from more manpower and resources and detention space so that detained illegal aliens are not released back into the streets like they were for the last 4 years. And our homeland can rest soundly again under the protection of President Trump's Golden Dome. That's what we're investing in. Look, any of these individual achievements would be historic victories for a Republican Congress or any Congress. And today we're delivering on all of them in one big, beautiful bill. That's what Americans can count on when we pass this legislation, and that's exactly what Democrats will vote to oppose today. That's a fact. We didn't write this bill for the Democratic Party or the elites or the media. This bill is for hardworking Americans, and they deserve it. I'm going to just say this as plainly as I can. This is a simple truth. If you're for a secure border, safer communities, and a strong military, this bill is for you. If you're for common sense fiscal responsibility and reducing the deficit, this bill is for you. If you're for fair and lower taxes, bigger paychecks, affordable gas and groceries, and restoring dignity to hard work, this is the bill for you. It makes no difference whether our colleagues on the across the chamber speak for 25 minutes or 25 hours. They can't change the truth. And today was about performance for some of them, but today for us is about results. Results that improve the lives of Americans, regardless of their race, religion, color, or creed. It does not matter. I tell you what, Ronald Reagan used to remind us you can always trust the American people, and we do trust the American people, and they can discern the difference. What they saw on display here today is that Democrats deliver performances and Republicans deliver results. Today, my friends, we are ready now. We are going to deliver what we were sent here to do, and every American will benefit from it. In 1793, just steps from where we stand today, President George Washington laid the first cornerstone of the United States Capitol. Over 50 years later, on July 4th, again, members of this body gathered once again to lay a second cornerstone. Once more on July 4th, at the height of the Cold War, Congress laid a third cornerstone. And this week, with this vote today, on our nation's birthday being tomorrow, we lay a fourth. With this bill, we can vote as stewards of that great legacy that we have inherited in this extraordinary nation that we are blessed to live in. We can lay another sturdy foundation for the future of this country, a future where working Americans can feel relief, where government can finally start living within its means again, and where the United States is safer, stronger, and more prosperous than ever before. That's right. Now, I'm going to say this as they mock America and mock everything and mock the bill. We'll see how the people feel about that.
Yeah.
So listen, seriously, as friends and colleagues, really, across the aisle, what we celebrate tomorrow is the nation's birthday. Let's put the politics aside for a minute, and let's reflect on our blessings. No kidding, really. Tomorrow is the 249th birthday of our nation, and that's right. I mean this sincerely. I thank my colleagues for standing. We all should be united in that. We are. We have squabbles, we have partisan debates and all of this, but at the end of the day, we're all Americans, man. And we gotta believe that. We gotta know it. We gotta recognize that we live in the greatest nation in the history of the world. It's not even close. My friends and colleagues, we are so blessed. We should not take it for granted. We live in the most free, the most successful, the most powerful, the most benevolent nation that has ever been on the face of the earth. And there's a reason for that. The reason that we are the greatest nation is because we were built on the ultimate foundation. And the bold declaration that my friend Hakeem Jeffries articulated earlier is true. We unite under that. The bold declaration that we do hold these truths to be self-evident. What is a self-evident truth? It's something that's obvious. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. It does not say born equal, it says created equal. And that it is our Creator, yes. It is our Creator that gives us our rights. See, the powerful thing about that is we're the first nation in the history of the world that acknowledged that our rights do not derive from government. They come from God Himself. You see those words up there, that motto, it says, "In God we trust," right above the speaker's rostrum. You know, a previous Congress put that there in the early 60s in the height of the Cold War. There's a little visitor's guide that people get when you do tours late at night. You've probably seen your constituents and visitors and friends get the guide. If you turn, I think it's about to page 21. It explains why that's there. And it says, Congress voted to put that there as a rebuke to the Soviets' worldview at the height of the Cold War. Why? Because communism, socialism, find their root in Marxism. And Marxism begins with the belief that there is no God. It's wrong. And this Congress made us stand those many years ago, and we should do it again. We're different, we're distinct, we're exceptional, because we acknowledge that right there, our motto.
You will say, 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 you will
It doesn't say in government we trust. It says in God we trust. And we better remember that. He has blessed us with his grand experiment in self-governance now for almost 2.5 centuries. And by God's grace, we are working hard and we are delivering on our promise to make America great again. This is without a doubt the most important vote of this Congress, and I think this may be the most important vote that any of us take in our entire lifetimes. And everybody better remember it, however you vote today. Yeah. My friends, the President of the United States is waiting with his pen. The American people are waiting for this relief. We've heard enough talk. It's time for action. Let's finish the job for him. Vote yes on the bill. With that, I yield back.
That was House Speaker Mike Johnson rallying the troops, if you will, in advance of an upcoming vote on the One Big Beautiful Bill. He, of course, follows House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who spoke for hours upon hours upon hours trying to convince his Democratic colleagues to vote against it. We are now preparing for that vote. We, of course, will be covering all of this for you throughout the day here on Real America's Voice. But for now, let's get you back to Human Events Daily with Jack Posobiec.
This has been a live special report. We now join our programming already in progress.
To implement. So that means things. One, on the tax credits, we need to make sure that no tax on Social Security, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime get actually implemented through the Treasury process. So this is, where we work with the deep state to make sure that everybody has the guidance that they need, and then American labor can finally be freed up again, and so that we can see a manufacturing renaissance. So that's something that we are focused on, is implementing the tax provisions. Then you've got a lot of the rest. We are going to obviously wind down a lot of the green new scam deals. So there will be no new credits issued in 2028. And so basically anything that is in construction right now has to be it. That's it. And so we're going to be moving over a lot of investment, a lot of focus to reliable American-made energy sources, those sorts of things. We've got work requirements that we're going to implement. So this is going to put so many more people into the workforce. It's going to give so many people something to live for again. Right now, without work requirements, people, and these are pretty simple work requirements, 20 hours a week. This is something that all Americans who are able-bodied can do and should do. So we're going to empower Americans to get back in the workforce and provide for their families. There's so many wins in here: conservative wins, savings wins. I know the CBO says that this is going to increase the deficit. Our numbers are $8.4 trillion off of that because tax cuts produce more revenue for the government. We also have the largest savings of any bill in history. So we're going to be saving money. We're going to be putting people to work. We're going to be uplifting the American spirit. We're going to be increasing manufacturing, making our country energy dominant. So many wins here.
And May, when it comes down to it, there's one issue I think above all that when our audience weighs in on this, when they really come in, the single biggest issue that we get is ICE. And they want to see the full funding for ICE. And this is something where I think if you go to the mainstream media, they're not even talking about it. Or if they do, you get Hakeem Jeffries and the deportation machine on steroids. And I'm joking. I said, did you not understand what all of 2024 was about? I'm pretty sure the president talked about this every single chance he was physically able to do so, that the American people need relief from the massive influx of illegal aliens that came under Joe Biden. So talk to us a little bit about this piece on finally funding ICE to do the job that needs to be done.
Right. So President Joe Biden let in people who you don't even know the numbers and you don't know who they are, but they're living in your communities. They're in many places still living on the streets, and they're endangering Americans. And it's something that Americans voted against. So by fully funding border security, this is funding the wall, and this is also funding ICE operations. So not only ICE officers to increase the number of ICE officers, but increase the number of bed space. Because if you've got a nice officer, but there's nowhere to put people while they go through their proceedings, right? So this is America and everybody gets proceedings, but those proceedings take a while. So there has to be a place to put people. So this bill fully funds not only ICE officers, but it also funds that infrastructure like the bed space in order to effectuate these removals, to keep America safe and to promote the legal pathway, right? It is completely unfair that people get to hop the line, and then if you get across the border, then there's no one to catch you. Then there's nothing that happens to you. A nation that is founded on fairness and justice cannot tolerate that sort of system, and this bill puts an end to it.
Oh, absolutely. And I certainly understand the concerns of many out there who have raised questions about spending, particularly on a variety of these things. But it's incredible to me how, number one, when you're removing these illegal aliens who are such a drain on our systems, and a drain, by the way, on the entitlement programs, that doesn't seem to certainly doesn't factor into the CBO score, but it doesn't factor into any of their arguments, because you're actually decreasing the demand for social services through the deportations. And, they're only focused on the supply side of this. But on another side, they're not talking about growth. How do you have jobs numbers like the ones that come out today, which obviously would have factored into the CBO score, but didn't? That is only just the start of what we're starting to see from the new economy going forward. Talk to us a little bit about how there really isn't the correct story being put out on growth.
Yeah, so right now, the way that the Congressional Budget Office, which always says that liberal bills are free. I mean, this is a group that said that Biden's student loan, Obama, same thing, but that Obama's student loan program would cost $0, that for the government to give loans to everybody who wanted them, it would not cost anything. It would actually make up enough money to pay for Obamacare. Of course, that's crazy, right? Our student loan system, nobody's repaying. You're giving it to people who can't finish their degrees, who actually had no intention of doing it, and students who are set up for failure by universities that give them useless degrees. So this is the CBO that thought that program would actually save money. It says that this bill is going to cost money. And the way that they get to that, as your listeners will know, is that they say that the tax cuts are very expensive. But here's the funny thing. The tax cuts are an extension of what's already the case. So they're saying that it's expensive to literally just continue the status quo. But if we had the greatest tax hike in history, that would not be the status quo. That would be very expensive to the American people, in that you would end American manufacturing, you would end small business growth. And so you would see a real decline in the GDP and in the jobs, in the manufacturing, but also in the American spirit. I mean, honestly, it would just crush people and the amount of money that they have to spend. And so the CBO score has no bearing on reality. And when we look from our CEA, so this is our Council of Economic Advisors, which is a nonpartisan organization within the executive branch, they said that if you look at even the tariff revenue combined with the growth, combined with the savings, we are $8.4 trillion off of what the CBO says. So clearly we don't believe what they have to say, and the American people shouldn't either.
Well, I think this is incredible. May, we've only got about a minute left. I know you guys are super busy there. Does it look like, though, and it certainly seems to be for me, I tweeted this morning, so we have to make sure that it's true, that on this 4th of July, President Trump is about to deliver one of the most biggest and beautiful birthday presents to the United States of America since 1776. Are we going to get there?
I think we will. I think we have the votes, and right now, then it just turns to us. Our job gets hard. Congress's job gets easy, and we have to implement. Of course, there's still things Congress can do, but this implements President Trump's agenda. One of the things I think people were frustrated about was that there were so many wins during Trump 1.0, and then Biden took them all away. On day one, he took them all away. And this is important in order to solidify and change the course of our country, in order to have President Trump's agenda be permanent. That's what this bill does.
Simple as that. May, where can people go to follow you and see everything that you and the White House are putting out?
Yeah, so on Twitter, I'm at May Mailman, and obviously follow all of our great people here in the White House, Caroline, our White House press office. So, yeah, that's where you can find me.
We love all the folks there and the great work you guys are doing. May, if I don't see you, have a happy Independence Day. Thank you. All right, we're right back. Jack Posobiec, Human Events Daily continues.
Today, you know, they talk about influencers. These are influencers, and they're friends of mine. Jack Posobiec. Where's Jack? Jack, he's done a great job.
My name is Paula Scanlon, and I'm a former swimmer from the University of Pennsylvania. My name is Riley Gaines. I was a swimmer at the University of Kentucky.
I was permanently injured at the hands of a man when I was forced to play against him in a high school volleyball game.
I was forced to compete against a biological male on my middle school track team. I had to compete against two biological males throughout all 4 years of high school. Trump's admin and the Department of Education have gone to the University of Pennsylvania not just to apologize for what they did to me and other female athletes that were forced to compete against and alongside this male athlete, but they also got them to change their policies and to take down his records from the board, which is a great win.
The stories we heard brought tears to all of our eyes. It was powerful. It was moving.
I'm so excited for the announcement from Secretary McMahon and President Trump today as they stand at the forefront of this issue for women and girls everywhere.
And I am so thankful that we finally have an administration in office who is willing to stand up and ensure that no other girl has to experience the pain and heartbreak I went through.
I'm just very excited that the Trump administration is taking action to protect girls.
We're fighting for the next generation, young girls like my daughter. So just very, very grateful and excited for what this means.
Well, incredible news out of the White House in terms of that. And we've also, of course, very excited to have on the great, I'm going to give her the great Paula Scanlon, who was just in that video. She is a senior fellow at APP, but also, of course, was on the swim team with Leah Thomas. Paula, what a week it's been for you.
Definitely. I mean, it's been a really crazy week just getting around, and this announcement really came very suddenly, but I'm grateful for it. I think we've seen really strong leadership from the Trump administration. I mean, continued strong leadership. They campaigned on this, they promised this, and they delivered. Only within 6 months, they got Penn to already come crawling back, apologizing. This is a historic win, and I'm so grateful for them and their leadership.
So walk us through, for folks who haven't seen the whole context of it, and, you know, I saw the stuff that you had tweeted out about it, but walk us through what exactly has Penn done here?
Yes. So back in March, the Trump administration pulled federal funding from the University of Pennsylvania for their violations in Title IX. I mean, obviously, they had a 6'4" tall, fully intact male on our women's swim team. It's very clear they were violating Title IX there. They pulled the funds. Penn then went to the Trump administration and said, hey, I'm willing to negotiate, and whatever happened behind closed doors with those wonderful people, they got the University of Pennsylvania to issue an apology to the female athletes affected, wipe Thomas's name from the record board, begin using language that's true in defining men and women, which is very important, which is so silly that we even have to make them do that. But that was one of the other things that they agreed to. And again, this is something we've never seen before. No one else who's violated these Title IX problems has come to the table like this and just said, actually, we're going to walk this all back.
So, and this, of course, comes on the heels of the pressure from the Trump administration locking up the federal funding and getting them to actually try to behave. Do you think that President Trump maybe had a little bit of a personal investment in this because he himself is a Penn grad?
I mean, we can only look at the connection, but I hope so. But also, I think that Penn is realizing really what's at stake here, right? We've seen Harvard go the other direction and not cooperate with the Trump administration. I think what they're seeing is the Trump administration stands on business and should be feared. And I honestly think the University of Pennsylvania finally, for the first time ever, has done the smart thing here. So I hope the connection is there. And I would love for Trump to go back. Actually, you know what they should have agreed to? Trump should have to be the commencement speaker at the University of Pennsylvania next year. That's what I would have liked to see in their agreement.
Oh my gosh. So actually have him there. And now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Penn, I think this is true. You're required to sit there through the graduation speaker. Isn't that right?
I think so. I mean, maybe you could get up and leave, but they probably won't let you out.
No,
I have no idea.
I remember this coming up years ago, and there was some like crazy Islamic speaker, and I had some friends who were there at the time, and they were required to speak and or required to sit during the speech. And so I guess they'd have to be forced to be there. By the way, I am being told through my producer's ear, my ear, that the big, beautiful bill has just passed. Guys, can we get that? Can we get that box up in the corner here? And I want to see the actual votes. If we can get the actual votes, may have been a voice vote. And so there it is. Incredible. Paula, can I just get you to weigh in real quick on this bill, because this is hot breaking news.
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm on with you when this is happening. Obviously, this is just, again, hard work at stake here. That's so many things we had to get in there. And this is why we have strong leadership under the Trump administration. I mean, this is amazing. I'm so glad to see Trump's agenda continue to get pushed along. And I'm glad some of the people that were questionable have now cooperated.
So this is incredible, and I want to get the numbers on this, and we're going to have to look at the actual members. But yeah, you can see it there. I think it says, was that 216? Yeah, 216. Two Republicans voted against, 2 not voting. So of course we're going to have to track them all down. Brian Fitzpatrick last night running away from the House chamber. Brian Fitzpatrick, by the way, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, Paula, one of your favorite locations, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I have a lot of family out there. We spoke together at an event out in Bucks County.
We did an event there, yeah, last year.
We got to go pay him a visit.
We may have to go. No, Brian Fitzpatrick. So he's there because it's for his former brother's seat, his late brother's seat, who is a very good congressman. Brian is someone that I've known for over 15 years, through his brother. And I'd just say, Brian Fitzpatrick is no Mike Fitzpatrick. And that's probably the best thing that I could say about his tenure in Congress. It's simple as that. Former FBI director, it just is what it is. Paula, this is a huge, huge win, though, I think, for people who want to 20x the ICE budget, for people who want to actually get out there and see these mass deportations take place and actually get the president's agenda pushed forward. Last minute to you, Paula Scanlon, where can people go to follow you, and how important are all of these victories for Americans, for regular Americans?
Yeah, well, definitely. I'm pretty active over on X, Paula Y. Scanlon. You can keep following along with what I'm doing. But I think what just happened just shows us exactly what I was saying earlier, is that the Trump administration stands on business. They don't just make promises, they deliver on them. And this is just another example of that. And so, again, I'm grateful for his leadership. I'm grateful that he's president, and everything really that he's done, I've been so pleased with in the last couple of months. And I know we're technically still early on in the administration, so I'm excited to see what else leadership gets up to.
And last question, Paula, as a Gen Z New Yorker, will you be supporting Zoran Mandami later this year?
I mean, I sure hope you guys would figure out how I would stand. No, anyone but him. In fact, I'm going to be working very hard to make sure he's not elected. So if anyone wants to come in New York and help out with that, please let me know. We're gonna make sure socialism does not take over. Probably communism doesn't take over in New York City.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Paula Scanlon, give her a follow. Incredible news, the BBB. We've got Rich Barris coming up next here, Human Events Daily on Real America's Voice.
Terrence Bates here with your Real America's Voice news break. We appreciate you being here with us. President Trump's one big beautiful bill has passed in the House and is now headed to the president's desk for his signature. We're hearing that President Trump will sign the measure tomorrow, possibly during a ceremony in the Rose Garden. Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries delayed the vote as long as he possibly could by speaking on the House floor for about 8 hours this morning. House Speaker Mike Johnson, though, followed up the filibuster-style speech with his own words of encouragement for his fellow Republicans in order to encourage them to stand up and pass the bill. 2 Republicans voted against the measure, which turned out to be short of the 3 that would have been needed to put an ugly face on the one big beautiful bill. Earlier this morning, I had an opportunity to talk with New York Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis.
Making our nation secure, safe, prosperous, and affordable. That's what this bill does. We protect our vulnerable. We protect the taxpayer. We allow hardworking Americans to keep more of their money. We allow senior citizens to keep more of their Social Security. 88%, by the way, of senior citizens on Social Security will see their tax liability erased on Social Security. That's about 51 million Americans that will benefit from this. So this is huge. We're very much looking forward to taking this vote so people can start benefiting from this right away.
And we're told the president was on the phone with potential Republican holdouts early this morning, working to flip their votes. The White House, as I said, already scheduling a signing ceremony for the bill tomorrow because, of course, now the House has passed that bill. And while President Trump waits for the one big beautiful bill to make it to his desk because it's headed that way, he is headed this afternoon to a rally at the state grounds in Iowa. He'll be there in the heartland to launch a year of America 250 events. You're actually going to be you're looking here at video of President Trump arriving at the Iowa State Fair last year during the campaign where he promised a big celebration. That's a quick check of your headlines. I'm Terrence Bates.
And Jack, where's Jack? Where's Jack? Where is he? Jack, I want to see you. Great job, Jack. Thank you. What a job you do. You know, we have an incredible thing. We're always talking about the fake news and the bad, but we have guys, and these are the guys who should be getting Pulitzers.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec, here we are back live, Human Events Daily, Washington, D.C. And I think it's time, as we head towards America's birthday, I think it's time for a polling update. And what better way to do that than to bring on the people's pundit himself, Rich Barris, the founder and executive of the Big Data Poll. Rich, what's going on, man?
Living the dream as always, Jack. How about you?
Happy I'm loving it. I can't wait for America's big, beautiful birthday tomorrow. But Rich, when we're getting down to it, there's been a lot of back and forth about the president's poll numbers this month, or I should say really during June, going back and forth. And there were a lot of people making comments saying, hey, what's going on? You know, he's making some moves that a lot of people didn't expect. Are his numbers going up or his numbers going down? We have a clip that I want to show that kind of highlights this from CNN. Guys, let's run that.
I mean, every politician would like this number here, especially to see it go up. How about compared to other presidents who were Republicans?
Yeah, it's history making. It's history making. What are we talking about here? So why don't we look back? We have all the presidents, Republican presidents, going back over the last 35, 36, 37 years. What are we talking about? GOP, who strongly approved 5 months in. Look at this. George H.W. Bush 41, 46%. Bush 43, 59. You see Trump, the first term, 53. But look at this. 63%. He beats all the other Republicans on the board here. And I was looking even back since Reagan. And get this, Donald Trump beats Ronald Reagan when it comes to the strongly approved 5 months. And of course, Reagan was coming off that high after that assassination attempt. So the bottom line is Donald Trump is making history with the Republican base. He is more beloved by this Republican base than any Republican base loved any GOP president 5 months in. It is history making.
All right, Jack Posobiec, here we are back, and that's Rich Barris. So, Rich, when we're looking at these numbers, and I've seen a lot of conservatives sharing this, I said, well, wait a minute, this is strong approval among Republicans, which is great, and certainly what we want, absolutely. But it doesn't really tell the whole story, does it?
No, it really doesn't. And, Jack, the problem with clips like that and arguments like that is that Trump's base is not only Republicans. So there's a little bit of good news and a little bit of bad news for the president. The good news is there are also more Republicans under Donald Trump than we've ever measured. Democrats are in a registration collapse, but they're also in an identification collapse when a pollster calls and asks, what do you identify as, right? So there are no D+, there should not be any D+ samples anymore because it doesn't exist in the real world. But that being said, Trump's base, and this is why he wins when nobody else can win. This is why he can win Michigan. This is why he can win Pennsylvania, why he can win Wisconsin, right? Why he wins Ohio by 13 points, why he wins Iowa by 13 points, Florida 13 points. You cannot win those states, and not like that, with those kind of numbers just from Republicans. You just can't do it. So Trump, he has gotten a base that is not just loyal to the Republican Party. So those are the people that you really have to watch, because in truth, a strong approval among Republicans is held pretty steady since he's been elected to his second term in office. Hasn't really moved.
Well, and this is exactly who we spent, Rich, when I would have you on, every week during the election. We weren't really talking about his approval among Republicans because politics is a game of addition. And so the idea was all about building this coalition and expanding the MAGA tent out beyond the normal boundaries of just 4-4 Republicans or straight ticket Republicans. It was, how do you expand to those low prop voters? How do you expand working class in the key states, in 7 out of 7 of the swing states, getting blacks and Hispanics on board, where you were the first person years ago and half a decade ago now to talk about how Hispanics, particularly Hispanic men, and finally Pew's, by the way, finally got out with this huge study saying, oh, wait, exactly what Rich Barris has been saying all along, that Trump was going to win Hispanic men, which he did. And so there's this huge gap, though, I think, between a lot of those and which you really would see in independents. But, even then, a lot of these people, which you've talked about a lot, they're not the type of people that just answer polls on a regular basis. Even it's very hard to poll those types of people. But the way we can generate, or the way we can measure this is through voting. You can see the way that they voted. So, Rich, for those people, this extra group of people that's been added to the strong Republican base, what's going on in those types, the independents, let's call them, that, where's their approval at? Because when I see the CNN piece, they're not talking about it at all.
No, they're not, because, of course, though, that's the group that wins or loses elections, Jack. That if you can get this group out, they're inclined to support, I don't want to say right-wing candidates, but they're definitely inclined to support the Trump agenda. But what is that agenda, and who are this group of independents and independent-leaning? They're really Republicans, but they lean that way. They don't have no loyalty to the party whatsoever, and that's the reason why is part of who they are. They're very skeptical people. They're distrustful of government. They're distrustful of anything. They didn't even want to vote because their number one reason is that their vote doesn't matter, right? The system is what it is, and their vote doesn't make a difference. Somebody like Donald Trump inspired them to go out and vote. And the Republican Party's number one job should be to hold on to those people. However, it is what it is. We have to call balls and strikes here. Since the military strike in Iran, this group has soured. I wouldn't say they're gone, but they were not happy with that. This is what I think people lost sight of during that entire affair. And his numbers have improved again over the last week a little bit, but we'll see what happens in the future. What generally happens when there's an airstrike, or even when America goes to war, you get a temporary rally around the flag effect, and that is typically fueled by people who may never vote for you, have never voted for you, but it's temporary, and they'll shoot over to somewhat approve maybe, and they're typically not going to say they strongly approve, but they end up adding to the positive your positive numbers. But it comes at the risk of potentially losing support among people who only and always vote for you, right? So if you can get them out, that is the group we obsessed over before the election, Jack. Those are the groups groups that Donald Trump could get out that we, on your show, over and over again said, the Ron DeSantis cannot, Nikki Haley cannot. This group is, the Ohio River Valley, right? Parts of Pennsylvania, southeastern Michigan. Just think about who these groups are, Jack. Southeastern Michigan, from Dearborn to Saginaw and Macomb County. These are not pro-military intervention people. In fact, when we polled it, they made up the lion's share. The quarter of the country said they wanted no role in the Middle East whatsoever. So, Donald Trump was smart to move on from this, or try to move on from this and get back to his domestic agenda, because that's what they were screaming for him to do.
Well, it's so interesting because anecdotally, I had just two things to happen in the wake of all of this over the last, couple of weeks here in the DC area. Is that I was up and I was driving around and I saw one of these. I know I saw one of these. It was guy driving a pickup truck, and on the bumper sticker it said, "I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm an American." And I'm like, That's the guy. That's the guy right there. He's driving a pickup truck. He's working class. He hates the parties, and he loves America. I'm like, that's the guy who's going to vote for Trump and not go out and vote for anyone else. So that's a Trump only voter. However, I also heard anecdotally from, I'll just say, a friend of mine has a father who's more of the MSNBC persuasion, which, of course, and I'm always hearing their arguments. But, what's interesting, though, is it gives me insight into sort of how the average MSNBC viewer is thinking. And one of the things that I heard was on the back end of this was he loved the Iran strikes. He said, you know what? It was the right thing to do. It was the right time to do it. And after having talked to you about this dynamic, I went back to my friend. I said, hey, do you think your dad would ever vote for, I know he's not up, but do you think your dad would ever vote for Trump on the back end of this? He's like, no, never. Absolutely not. So he could agree, and he could agree with it. So Rich, are you saying then that that's the kind of thing that might show up in polling as sort of a temporary boost, a sugar high, this rally around the flag effect that exists for a limited amount of time, yet doesn't actually translate to voting behavior?
That's exactly right. And then also added to somebody like that would be like a Bill Kristol Metro Republican who still identifies as a Republican, even though we know he's not. Somebody like that, the needle would move a little bit. But this guy would never actually cast a ballot for Trump or most, right? 90%, 95% of most Republicans. And there's also something else I should know. So throughout the duration of Trump's second presidency, his strong disapproval rating among independents has not hit 40%. It did the weekend of these strikes, right? So by Monday, it was about 40%. Now that has come down again this week, and we'll see. But that is being fueled by the people who only, and if you get them out, they only vote for you. That is being fueled by that. So you risk that guy. You risk, but temporary support for the support or temporary support of that guy, that gentleman that you just mentioned. You risk losing those people. Right. So again, it was smart for Trump to move on.
So you're saying that his disapproval among independents hit its highest ever in his second term, the weekend of those strikes, when that took place, and has gone down since. But independents were largely swinging against this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's being fueled by those. They're Republican leaning, but they're not. They also say, and this will give people some great insight. Every time somebody says they're an independent, we always follow up and try to prod them about what their leanings are. And one of the questions that we ask is, which party is more closely aligned with your views? But one of the response choices is that they share little in common with either party. So they can either say that they lean more toward Republicans, more towards Democrats, maybe they're equal to both, or they share little in common with either party. That is the group that turned sour over these strikes. And that is the group, by the way, that always was the key group. When I came on the show, I would tell you about this Trump or bust vote. That's where they come from, because they're just so, they're disgruntled about the entire process, right? So they don't they don't like either party. They don't align with either party. So RFK had a nice chunk from this group. But Ron DeSantis
I was going to say, that's your Maha voter right there. That's your Maha
because it's
margin.
hard to get them out.
Yeah, your Maha margin in so many of the states.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got suburbanites in that group. You've got people who are just kind of checked out. But I would imagine you have upper class, sort of like upper middle class as well as working class in that group. People who are just not invested in politics, or people who are checked out because of the years of Biden, Obama, Bush, Romney, and the rest. This is fascinating. We're walking you through the Trump coalition in the second term. Jack Posobiec, Rich Barris, right back.
They said Gen Z would stay silent, that we'd back down, that we'd forget what's worth fighting for. But this generation remembers. We remember truth. We remember freedom. And now, we rise. This is more than a conference. It's a call to action, to reclaim the future, to ignite a movement that cannot be ignored. Student Action Summit 2025, featuring the boldest voices in the fight. Charlie Kirk, Secretary Pete Hegseth, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Brett Cooper, Secretary Kristi Noem, Riley Gaines, Brandon Tatum, Jack Posobiec, Laura Ingraham, Megyn Kelly, Greg Gutfeld, Tom Homan, Congressman Byron Donalds, Russell Brand, Savannah Chrisley. Join thousands of students, future leaders, and freedom fighters. This is the battleground of ideas. This is the Student Action Summit. Register now at SAS2025.com.
When I'm working long hours, I'm always listening to Human Events with Jack Posobiec.
All right, Jack Posobiec, we're back with Rich Barris. And, you know, I want people to understand that when we're digging into the numbers like this, there's a reason for it. People say, why are you going so granular? Why are you splitting the hair and you're going so deep? I say, guys, listen, we live in a polarized country with a polarized electorate. Much of this because of media consumption, generational shift, demographic shift. You could talk about that till we're blue in the face. We talk about it all the time. However, what we want to focus on here is winning. And if you want to win, you have to put together a coalition of 50% plus one. And so how did President Trump get to there in all of the swing states, 7 out of 7 of the swing states, and turn out the popular vote? Because he found a way to go pocket by pocket by pocket by pocket by pocket, put this all together, and boom, put up across the board the most massive victory anyone's ever seen. And so that's why it's so key to watch the shift of these pockets, because these margins, they say, oh, you're just focusing on the margins. Yeah, it's called the margin of victory. The margin of victory. That's why I watch the margin, because that goes from winning an election to losing an election. Rich Barris, help me out here. You know, people are like, oh, why are you so focused on this? Because this is winning versus losing. And I'm sorry, but I want to keep winning, and I don't ever want to stop winning.
And I think people don't understand, even though it's something I've been saying for years, is that the only thing that's consistent about political coalitions in this country is that they consistently evolve. And you have to consistently observe them and watch. And usually, almost always, at least I believe this, it's because voters are making a rational policy choice, or they're making a rational choice to not vote at all. And you know, that Pew Research study that you cited in the last segment, Jack, that study showed exactly what we had been, screaming about for 2 years, that there is actually more of these voters that Republicans could go get if they were focused and if they understood what we were saying and understood the significance of it. Had all of them gone out to vote, it would not have been a, marginal popular vote win. It would have been an overwhelming one, anywhere 5 to 7 points. I mean, could you imagine a Republican presidential candidate winning the popular vote by 5 to 7 points? And you have to understand where these people are located. They disproportionately impact the Electoral College. So when you get these voters out in greater numbers, you're impacting the Electoral College count more than you would think, more than you would expect, right? Just from adding X number of voters, how could it swing a state that much? Because they tend to live in the states that matter. And so I don't know what matters more, right? And it's also important to know that Republicans they're on a timer with these voters, because, and we showed this and demonstrated this during the Republican primary, these voters told us that there really at that time was only one candidate they would go out and vote for, and that was Donald Trump. So the Republican Party's job right now, all right, do what you got to do legislatively, then move on. And on the ground, behind the scenes, your job is to convince these voters that the party is becoming more like Donald Trump. And that is really the entire argument. You have got to make these people understand that the Republican Party's changed. It's going to take up Trump's banner when he's no longer in office, and he's going to move forward. If they do that, you're talking about a Roosevelt-like coalition that will endure for 30 years. So, I mean, that's why we obsess over these numbers, folks. It's the difference between the pendulum swinging back and forth temporarily, like it often does in American politics, or sometimes a big realignment comes around. And that big realignment is historical, and it changes the trajectory of the electorate, like it did for Roosevelt. By the way, it did so for Reagan as well. Republicans were kind of in the wilderness, and Reagan ushered in something Obama, by the way, was very jealous of. He ushered in a 30-year change in the American psyche, and he got people to come out and vote Republican that had never in the past. Ethnic Catholics, ethnic Irish, right? So he changed that equation that you were just talking about, and that's what Trump has he already did. It's just that now Republicans need to be able to pick that up and also expand on it, because you can. The numbers are there to expand on it.
And I think this is so important, Rich. You got to write this up, brother, because this is one of the most important things that I think you've uncovered. And it's something that I think a lot of us can sort of sense it when we're out there, whether it's on social media or just reading comments and emails. But you've put it together in this package that you've uncovered that I think is so important because, again, just like anything else in politics, when you take an action that benefits that one group over another in your coalition, that runs the risk of costing other members of the group. Rich Barris, where can people go to find you and get all of these incredible insights?
Best place, we're everywhere, Jack, but the best place is on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. Thanks as always, brother. Happy Independence Day.
Hey, Rich, and from the Posos to the Barrises, happy Independence Day. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore.
Get out.